The automatic doors hissed behind Marcus as he stepped into the sterile white corridor, carrying the weight of a night that had felt like it might break him. His eyes burned from exhaustion, his shirt still creased from the hours he had spent pacing beside a hospital bed. He had finally received the news that his mother was stable, and all he wanted was to step outside, breathe real air, and maybe let himself fall apart away from the fluorescent lights. But just as he reached for the exit, a small voice tugged him back into the world he was trying to escape. A little boy, no older than 6, stood with wide, uncertain eyes, gently pulling on his sleeve. "Sir, can Mom rest here?" The child pointed toward a tired woman sitting on a plastic chair along the wall, her shoulders trembling as she tried to steady her breath. If you're watching this and you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to you. Marcus froze, his hand still hovering near the door, his heart pounding with the leftover panic of the last several hours. He looked at the boy's trembling fingers, then at the woman, presumably the boy's mother, who looked as though she was falling apart in slow motion. Something inside him shifted, an old ache rising from buried memories he had spent years trying to forget. He swallowed hard as he turned away from the exit, feeling the heavy certainty that he couldn't walk out. Not yet. He knelt down to the boy's level, trying to soften the harshness that lingering fear had carved into his face. As he listened to the boy haltingly explain that his mother, Claire, hadn't slept in days after caring for her sick father in the ICU, Marcus felt a familiar stab of guilt. He had once been that helpless child asking strangers for something, anything, that might ease the weight crushing his own mother's shoulders. The memory of standing in a hospital hallway decades earlier, begging a nurse to let his mother rest after his father's accident, washed over him. It was too close, too painful, too real. And it broke something open inside him. He gently placed a hand on the child's shoulder and led him back toward Claire. She looked up, startled, attempting a weary smile as she insisted she didn't want to trouble anyone. But Marcus could see through her quiet facade, the trembling hands, the shallow breaths, the way she blinked as though trying to stay conscious. He remembered that exhaustion. That fear. He had lived it. And for a moment, he felt like fate had led him straight to someone who needed what he had once begged for. The hallway felt impossibly long, humming with distant chatter and echoing footsteps, all of it dulled by the weight of emotion tightening Marcus's chest. He sat next to Claire, taking in the way she tried to push away her tears, apologizing for breaking down. Marcus didn't interrupt. He knew some emotions had to spill before they could be carried again. Slowly, she shared that her father's health had taken a sudden turn for the worse, and she had been awake for 2 days straight. She didn't want to sleep in the waiting area because she feared missing even a moment of the doctor's updates. But her body was giving out, and her son, Owen, had watched her struggle until he finally approached the nearest adult, Marcus. Something inside Marcus softened as he listened. He knew well the chaos of caring for a parent, the fear of losing the person who once anchored your world. He saw himself in Claire's shaking hands, in the quiet desperation behind her eyes. And without thinking, he told her he would stay with Owen, would be her eyes and ears while she slept, would let her rest without fear. Claire hesitated at first, torn between trust and desperation, but eventually exhaustion won. Her head drooped to the side as her body gave in, and tears slipped silently down her cheeks as she whispered a thank you. Marcus watched Claire fall into a deep sleep, one she clearly hadn't had in days, and something in him eased. He took Owen's hand and walked him to a vending machine, letting the little boy choose a snack. Owen opened up in the way only children can, telling Marcus about how much he missed his grandfather's stories, how scared he was to see his mother so worried, how he had tried to be brave but sometimes felt so small. Marcus listened, his heart twisting with each word. He remembered being that small. He remembered wishing someone would listen. In those quiet minutes, surrounded by the soft beeping of machines and the murmurs of nurses passing by, Marcus felt something unexpected blooming inside him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in months. His own life had been spiraling since he lost his job 6 months earlier, and caring for his mother through her health crisis had left him exhausted, resentful, and hollow. But now, sitting in this long corridor with a child leaning quietly against his arm, he felt something stir. The realization that sometimes healing begins when you step outside your own pain long enough to help someone else heal theirs. Hours passed gently. Marcus stayed alert, checking for updates at the nurse's station, keeping Owen entertained with stories from his own childhood, watching Claire sleep with a peace she desperately needed. When she finally woke, confusion flickered across her face before relief washed over her. She sat up straight, startled to see Owen laughing softly beside Marcus. The gratitude in her eyes landed heavier than any words she could have spoken. Claire learned that during her rest, the doctors had come by with some hopeful news. Her father's condition had stabilized slightly, and they were optimistic about the next few hours. Marcus saw the way her shoulders sagged with relief, the way her eyes glistened with a mixture of exhaustion and fragile hope. She thanked him again and again, but Marcus only shook his head. He didn't feel like he deserved gratitude. If anything, helping them had given him something he didn't realize he had been starving for: connection, meaning, a sense that perhaps he wasn't as alone or as lost as he had thought. As Marcus stood to leave again, this time truly ready to go, Owen ran to him and hugged him tightly around the waist. The little boy's whisper was soft, almost trembling. "Thank you for taking care of Mom." Marcus swallowed hard, the emotion rising in his throat so fast it almost choked him. He ruffled Owen's hair and managed a smile. Claire placed a hand on Marcus's arm, her eyes shining with quiet sincerity, and told him he had shown her a kindness she wouldn't forget. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the goodness still left in the world. Before we end, tell us in the comments, has a stranger ever shown you unexpected kindness? And with that, Marcus finally stepped through the hospital doors, not feeling broken this time, but feeling like maybe, just maybe, the world still held room for healing.